The violin strings sliced through the crisp October air like a confession I could never utter, their melody wrapping around my chest until it ached. I stood there in the garden of that old Connecticut estate, the leaves turning fiery shades of red and gold, watching Alex, my best friend, my anchor, the man who'd pulled me from the wreckage of my own doubts, vow his forever to someone else. In that instant, as his hazel eyes locked with hers and his voice cracked just a little on, I realized with a gut-wrenching clarity that I'd been lying to myself for years. I loved him. Not as a brother, not as a friend, but with the kind of fire that consumes everything in its path. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Alex and I had met freshman year at NYU. Two wide-eyed kids from middle-class suburbs chasing dreams in the chaos of New York City. He was the outgoing one, the guy who could charm a room full of skeptics with a single grin, majoring in journalism because he believed stories could change the world. I was the quiet observer, buried in my English lit books, scribbling poems about shadows and unspoken truths. We'd bonded over late-night diner runs after classes, laughing about our families, his conservative parents in Ohio, who still sent care packages of homemade apple pie. Mine in upstate New York, who pretended my coming out at 17 was just a phase they'd outgrow. Alex had been there through it all, my first awkward date with a barista who ghosted me, the panic attacks when my dad stopped calling, the nights I'd wake up sweating from dreams where I was invisible. But standing there now, clutching a champagne flute that tasted like ash, I saw it all replay in fragments. The way he'd sling an arm around my shoulders after a bad breakup, his touch lingering just a second too long. The summer we road-tripped across the Midwest in his beat-up Honda, windows down, singing off-key to Springsteen until our voices gave out. The quiet evenings in his tiny Brooklyn apartment, sprawled on the couch with takeout pizza, debating everything from climate change to whether Hemingway was a coward. He'd always teased me about my poetic soul, calling me Jake the Great Romantic. But God, if he only knew how those words twisted in my gut. The reception kicked off under a tent strung with fairy lights, the kind that made everything feel magical until the ache set in deeper. Sarah's bride, the poised marketing exec he'd met at a work conference in Chicago, looked radiant in her ivory gown, her laughter bubbling like the fountains nearby. She was everything steady and right, kind eyes, a laugh that invited the world in. A family that actually showed up for events like this without side eyes or silences. Alex deserved that, didn't he? The normalcy, the picket fence future his mom had always dreamed of for her only son. As best man, I was supposed to give the toast, crack jokes about their first date mishaps, toast to a lifetime of happiness. Instead, I gripped the mic like it was a lifeline, my voice steady only because I'd rehearsed it 100 times in the mirror. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, forcing a smile that felt like glass. Alex has always been the guy who lights up a room. Remember that time in college when we got lost in the village during a blackout? He turned a potential disaster into an adventure, leading us to that hole-in-the-wall jazz club where we danced till dawn. Laughter rippled through the crowd, and Alex caught my eye from the head table, his grin wide and genuine, that dimple flashing in his left cheek. My heart stuttered. Sarah, you've got the best of him now, the heart, the fire, the unflinching belief in second chances. To the both of you, may your life together be as epic as the stories Alex chases. I raised my glass, clinking it against the air, but inside, something fractured. As the applause died down, he pulled me into a bear hug, whispering, "Thanks, Jake. Couldn't have done this without you." His collinous sandalwood and citrus hit me like a wave, and I buried my face in his shoulder, inhaling the scent I'd memorized without meaning to. "Always," I murmured, pulling back before my eyes could betray me. The night blurred after that, dances under the stars, uncles telling bad jokes, Sarah's little sister sneaking cake. I wandered to the edge of the garden, the Hudson River glittering in the distance, and lit a cigarette I'd bummed from the bartender. Me one vice when the world spun too fast. Footsteps crunched on the gravel, and there he was, tie loosened, jacket slung over his arm. Hiding out? Alex asked, plopping down on the stone bench beside me. He smelled like champagne and happiness, and it twisted the knife. Just catching my breath, I said, exhaling smoke into the night. Big day? He nodded, staring at the water. Yeah. Surreal. Right. 1 minute you're 22. Broke and invincible. And now, this. His voice dipped, a shadow crossing his face. For a heartbeat, I wondered if he felt it too, the undercurrent, the what-ifs we'd never voiced. But then he laughed it off, punching my arm lightly. You're next. You know. Who's the lucky poet gonna sweep off their feet? I forced a chuckle, stamping out the cigarette. Who knows? Maybe I'll stick to books. We sat there until the music faded, talking about everything and nothing, the way we always had. But as he stood to head back inside, clapping my shoulder with that easy affection, I knew peace had slipped away forever. That hug, that glance, the weight of his hand, it was all I'd replay in the quiet hours. A love story written in the margins of someone else's happy ending. The weeks that followed were a haze of forced normalcy. Alex and Sarah jetted off to Maui for their honeymoon, posting sun-soaked selfies that I liked with numb thumbs. Back in my Astoria apartment, surrounded by dog-eared novels and half-finished manuscripts, the silence pressed in. I'd always written to make sense of the chaos, short stories about lost boys finding their way, but now the words stuck, tangled in the truth I couldn't commit to paper. I loved him. Not the platonic, fist bump kind of love we'd built our friendship on, but the soul deep, rewrite your life kind. And he'd never know. Work became my refuge, editing freelance pieces for indie mags, the kind that paid in exposure and existential dread. My boss, a chain-smoking ex-hippie named Carla, noticed the fog in my eyes during our Monday check-ins. Spill it, Jacob, she'd say over coffee in her cluttered office, her silver rings clinking against the mug. You're glowing like a ghost. I'd shrug it off with a joke about wedding hangover, but she saw through it, slipping me extra assignments like quiet acts of mercy. One rainy Tuesday in November, my phone buzzed with a text from Alex, back in the city. Dinner at our place Friday. Sarah's making lasagna. Miss you. Man. My stomach flipped. Their Placia cozy brownstone in Park Slope they'd bought with her trust fund and his reporting salary. I'd helped them paint the kitchen last spring. Blue walls like the ocean we dreamed of surfing in California someday. Wouldn't miss it, I replied, then spent the next 2 days pacing, rehearsing small talk in the mirror. Friday arrived with a chill wind rattling the windows. I showed up with a bottle of Chianti and a forced smile, hugging Sarah at the door while Alex yelled from the kitchen about garlic bread burning. The apartment smelled like home basil and laughter, and for a moment, I could pretend. We ate at the scarred oak table, Sarah regaling us with honeymoon tales of snorkeling with sea turtles, Alex chiming in with his goofy impressions. His foot brushed mine under the table once, an accident that sent sparks up my leg, and I shifted away, blaming the wine. After dinner, Sarah excused herself for a work call, leaving us on the couch with a basketball game flickering on the TV. Alex stretched out, socked feet propped on the coffee table, nursing a beer. So, how's the novel coming? He asked, turning those hazel eyes on me. He'd always been my biggest cheerleader, reading drafts at 2 a.m. and leaving notes like this breaks my heart in the best way. Slow, I admitted, tracing the label on my bottle. Feels like I'm chasing shadows. He tilted his head, studying me. You, the guy who once wrote a sonnet about a bad burrito. Nah. What's really going on? The question hung there, heavy as the rain pattering outside. I opened my mouth to deflect, but the words tumbled out instead, half-truths about loneliness, about watching friends pair off while I stayed on the sidelines. It's like, you're building this life, and I'm happy for you. Really. But sometimes I wonder if I'll ever get there. Alex set his beer down, leaning forward. Jake, you're the most real person I know. Someone's gonna see that and fight like hell to keep it. His hand landed on my knee, warm and steady, and Tom stuttered. I could have said it then, it's you. It's always been you. But the door clicked open, Sarah's voice calling from the hall, and the moment shattered. As I left that night, waving from the stoop, the city lights blurring through unshed tears, I vowed to bury it deeper. Friendship over folly. But deep down, I knew the heart doesn't negotiate. Winter crept in like an uninvited guest, blanketing Brooklyn in snow and my days in routine. Christmas came with its obligatory cheer, Alex and Sarah's tree trimmed with ornaments from their travels. A far cry from the lopsided pine I'd grown up with in Syracuse. They invited me over for eggnog and board games. And I went, because saying no felt like surrender. We played Monopoly till midnight, Alex bankrupting me with ruthless trades, his laughter echoing off the walls. Sarah snapped a photo of us mid-game, arms slung around each other, and posted it with found family. The likes poured in, strangers cooing over the bromance. But to me, it was a Polaroid of what could never be. New Year's Eve hit harder. The city throbbed with possibility fireworks over the bridge. Crowds toasting fresh starts, but I spent it alone in a dive bar in the East Village, nursing a whiskey sour while confetti rained outside. My phone lit up at midnight, a video from Alex. Him and Sarah kissing as the ball dropped. Her whispering, to us, before he turned to the camera. Jake, get your ass to the next one. Love ya, brother. The words blurred as I hit replay, the ache blooming into something sharper, like grief for a life unlived. January brought resolutions and revelations. Alex landed a big story apiece on urban renewal in the Bronx for The Atlantic and celebrated with a guys' night at our old haunt, McSorley's. Just the two of us. Like old times. Pints of cream ale flowing as he dissected the interviews. It's terrifying, he confessed. Elbows on the scarred bar. Putting your name on something that matters. What if it's not enough? I clinked my glass to his. It will be. You're Alex freaking Harper. You make the world better just by showing up. He looked at me then. Really looked. The dim bar light catching the gold flecks in his eyes. What would I do without you? Jake. The question lingered. Loaded. And for a reckless second, I imagined answering with the truth. Instead, I ordered another round, steering us to safer ground, fantasy football drafts and spring training predictions. But the dam was cracking. February's Valentine's Day cards in every shop window mocked me. And when Sarah planned a surprise weekend getaway for them to the Berkshires, Alex texted me a photo of the cabin snowy pines. A fireplace waiting. Wish you were here to freeze your ass off with us. I stared at it for hours, composing replies I never sent. I wish I was there as more than the third wheel. By March, the restlessness turned to recklessness. I downloaded a dating app on a whim, swiping through profiles of guys with easy smiles and bios promising adventure. Coffee dates followed polite chats over lattes. Walks in Prospect Park that ended with awkward handshakes. 1. A graphic designer named Theo with tattoos snaking up his arms. Almost stuck. We kissed in the rain outside his loft, his hands gentle on my waist. But as he pulled me closer, all I saw was Alex's face. And I bolted, mumbling excuses about a deadline. Theo called the next day. If you're not ready, that's cool. But don't string me along. Man, he was right. I deleted the app, threw myself into writing a novella about a man haunted by echoes of what-ifs. The words poured out, raw and unfiltered, pages filling with Jacob's shadow self, the love unspoken, the friendship teetering on the edge. Spring thawed the city, cherry blossoms unfurling along the avenues like hesitant promises. Alex noticed the change in me during our weekly runs along the west side highway. Quieter, my pace faltering. Talk to me. He pressed one humid Saturday, slowing to a jog as the skyline loomed. Sweat beaded on his forehead, his tank top clinging to his chest. And I looked away, focusing on the river's churn. It's nothing. I lied. But he stopped, hands on his hips, breathing hard. Bullshit. You've been a ghost since the wedding. Is it us? Did I screw up somehow? The vulnerability in his voice undid me. We collapsed on a bench, gulls wheeling overhead, and the truth clawed its way up. It's not you screwing up. It's me. Figuring shit out. I told him about the dates, the emptiness, the fear that at 28, I'd peaked at best friend. He listened without interrupting, his silence a gift, then pulled me into a side hug. You're not defined by who loves you back, Jake. You're enough. Always have been. His words were kindness itself, but they stung like salt in a wound. As we walked back, arms brushing, I wondered how long I could keep this up the charade. The half-life, the heart, it seemed, demanded more. Summer arrived with a vengeance. Heat waves turning the subways into saunas and the streets into open-air markets of iced everything. Alex and Sarah threw a barbecue on their roof deck, string lights twinkling against the dusk, the air thick with grilled corn and laughter. Friends from college mingled with her work crowd, a melting pot of accents and ambitions. I arrived late, bearing a cooler of craft beers, and found Alex manning the grill, apron smeared with sauce, flipping burgers with theatrical flair. Jake, get over here and taste test, he called, waving tongs like a scepter. I obliged, the patty juicy and perfect, and he beamed, slinging an arm around my neck. Told you I'm a pro now? Sarah wandered over, linking her arm through his, and the three of us stood there, a tableau of domestic bliss that twisted something fierce in my chest. The night unfolded in a blur of charades and esmores. But as the crowd thinned, Alex and I ended up on the fire escape, legs dangling over the alley. City hum below us. Fireflies rare in the burrows danced in jars nearby. Sarah's idea for whimsy. He cracked open a beer for each of us, the cap hissing like a secret. 6 months in, he said softly, staring at the skyline. Marriage is weird. Good weird. Mostly. But sometimes I miss the chaos. You know. The not knowing. I nodded, throat tight. Yeah. The what-ifs keep you sharp. He turned to me, profile sharp against the glow. What are yours, Jake? If you could rewrite one thing. The question was a minefield. I could have said the wedding toast, or the night I didn't kiss him after that college party. Instead, I hedged, maybe telling people how I feel before it's too late. His gaze held mine, searching, and for a heartbeat, the air charged, electric with unspoken possibility. Then a car horn blared below, shattering it, and he laughed, clapping my back. Deep? Man, we'll figure it out. But as I lay awake that night in my sweltering apartment, ceiling fan whirring uselessly, I knew figuring it out meant risking everything. The love I'd buried was clawing free. And come fall, it would demand its due. Autumn painted the city in burnished hues, leaves crunching underfoot like brittle memories. Alex's article dropped to a claim front page buzz, podcasts clamoring for interviews, and he rode the high with a launch party at a Soho loft. exposed brick and craft cocktails. I hovered on the periphery, nursing a gin and tonic, watching him work the room, handshakes with editors, hugs from old profs, Sarah beaming at his side like a proud co-author. Pride swelled in me, mixed with the familiar pang. Later, as the party wound down, he found me by the balcony doors, overlooking the twinkling grid. "You were right," he said, clinking his glass to mine. "This is what I needed." His eyes, softened by triumph and a few drinks, lingered. "And you pushing me to submit it. Hero shit." "Just being honest," I murmured, the city wind tugging at my collar. Honesty. The word echoed. A challenge. We stepped out onto the narrow balcony. The cool air bomb. Below, taxis honked, lives intersecting in fleeting lights. "Sarah's pregnant," he blurted, the words tumbling like they'd been caged too long. Joy and terror warred on his face. "We just found out. It's huge." My world tilted. Congrats stuck in my throat. A jagged thing. "That's incredible. Alex, you guys are going to be amazing parents." I pulled him into a hug, fierce and final, his body solid against mine, heartbeat sinking for one stolen breath. He held on longer than usual, whispering, scared shitless. "But yeah, thank God for you, Jake." Pulling back, his hand cupped my shoulder, thumb brushing my jaw, a gesture so tender it blurred the lines we'd drawn. "What about you? Ready for Uncle Judy's?" I forced a laugh, stepping away. "Hell yeah. Diaper runs and bad advice incoming." But inside, the fracture widened. A baby. Finality. The life he'd chosen crystallized, leaving me adrift in the shards. The news rippled through the months, turning Alex's world into a whirlwind of ultrasounds and nursery debates. I tagged along to appointments when Sarah's schedule clashed, holding coffee in sterile waiting rooms, listening to his excited rambles about names, maybe Elias, after his grandfather. Each visit chipped at me, the sterile hum underscoring the distance growing between us. "You're my rock," he'd say, squeezing my hand, oblivious to how it anchored me in place while he soared. Thanksgiving brought the families together in Ohio, Alex insisting I fly out, no arguments. "Jake, your family." The Harper farmhouse was a Norman Rockwell fever dream, turkey roasting, aunts gossiping, kids chasing through the yard. I played the dutiful guest, charming his mom with stories of city escapades. But dinner was a minefield. Toasts to the impending arrival. Questions about my eligible bachelor status. Alex jumped in, arm around my chair. "Jake's the catch. Poets with hearts of gold. Rare breed." His dad grunted approval. But under the table, Alex's knee pressed against Minea, steadying pressure that sent my pulse racing. Later, as snow dusted the fields, we escaped to the barn. Hay bales soft underfoot, lantern light flickering. "This is it. Huh?" he said, voice low. "The real deal." "Yeah," I echoed, throat burning. "The real deal." He faced me then, shadows playing on his features. "I don't say it enough. But you make all this bearable. The doubts, the noise. You're my constant." The confession hung, raw and unguarded. My hand found his, fingers intertwining in the Dimnessa bridge, too far, too fragile. He didn't pull away, breath mingling with mine, the world narrowing to that touch. Then his phone buzzed. Sarah. Checking in, and he withdrew, the moment collapsing like a wave. Christmas Eve. Back in the city, I sat alone with a mug of spiked cider, staring at the tree I'd half-assed decorating. The call came at 11. "Alex." Voice thick. "She's bleeding. We're at the ER." My coat was on before he finished. Hailing a cab through the slush. Mount Sinai's halls were a blur of beeps and worry. Sarah pale on the gurney. Alex pacing like a caged animal. Miscarriage. The word landed like a bomb, shattering their joy. I held Sarah while she sobbed. Stroked Alex's back as he stared at the wall. Numb. It was too early. The doctor said gently. These things happen. But platitudes couldn't touch the grief carving them hollow. We stumbled home at dawn. The apartment a tomb of unpacked baby clothes. I brewed coffee. Silent sentinel. Until Alex cracked. I can't. What if I'm broken? He buried his face in his hands. Shoulders shaking. You're not. I said fiercely, kneeling before him. You're human. And you've got phthisis. I pulled him close. His tears soaking my shirt. Our breaths sinking in the wreckage. In that vulnerability, love surged unchecked. My lips brushing his temple in what could pass for comfort. He clung tighter. A whisper escaping, "Don't leave me. Jake." Never. I vowed. The lie tasting of truth. Winter's grip loosened into a tentative spring. But the loss lingered like frost on the windows. Alex threw himself into work. Chasing leads on a corruption scandal in City Hall. Coming home hollow-eyed. Sarah retreated into therapy sessions and yoga. Her smiles brittle. I became the glue dinners cooked from recipe apps. Movie nights with bad comedies. Walks where we'd talk about anything but the empty room down the hall. One April evening, after a particularly brutal deadline, Alex showed up at my door unannounced. Rain-soaked and wild-eyed. Can I crash? Can't be alone tonight. I nodded, toweling his hair. The domesticity achingly familiar. We ended up on the fire escape again, our confessional perch passing a bottle of bourbon. The city a distant roar. It's like half of me died with it. He admitted. Voice raw. The future I pictured. Gone. I set the bottle down, turning to him. Futures change. You're still here. Alex. That's the win. His eyes searched mine, glistening. How do you do it? Stay so steady. Because of you, I said, the words slipping free before I could cage them. You've always been my North Star. Silence stretched, charged. He leaned in, forehead to mine, breath warm. Jake. I feel it too. This pull. Have for years. The admission hung, a spark in the dark. His hand cupped my cheek, thumb tracing my lip, and time suspended. Our lips met soft, tentative, then deepening with the weight of unspoken years. It was everything, fire and forgiveness, terror and home. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the world remade. What now? He whispered, fear and hope warring. Now, I said, heart pounding. We figure it out. Together. But dawn brought reality crashing back. Sarah's key in the lock. Her voice calling his name. We sprang apart. Guilt etching lines on his face. We can't. Not like this. He murmured, fleeing to the shower as if water could wash away the truth. The days blurred into a torturous limbo. Stolen glances over breakfast. Texts laced with subtext. Miss our talks. Me too. Alex withdrew, burying in work. While Sarah sensed the shift. Her questions gentle but pointed. Everything okay with you too? She'd ask. And I'd nod. The lie eroding me. May's heat built like pressure. Culminating in a weekend getaway, Sarah's idea. A cabin in the Catskills to reconnect. I wasn't invited. But Alex called from the road. Voice strained. This was a mistake. I can't pretend anymore. The line went dead. And panic clawed me. I drove up that night. Headlights cutting the dark. Arriving to find them arguing on the porch. Words like confused, and trust slicing the air. Sarah spotted me first, tears streaking her face. "Jacob, what the hell?" Alex turned, relief and horror mingling. The truth spilled beneath halting confessions. Alex admitting the kiss, the feelings he'd suppressed since college, the marriage a shield against his own doubts. Sarah listened, shattering, then stood. I knew something was off. But this... God. Alex. She left for the city at dawn, suitcase thumping down the steps. Alex and I sat in the wreckage, mugs of coffee cooling untouched. "I love her," he said brokenly. "But not like this." He reached for my hand, trembling. "I love you, Jake." Terrified, but true. The words unlocked something profound, a cascade of relief, fear, joy. We talked till sunset, the denial, the what-ifs, the courage it took to name it. That night, we held each other, kisses mapping the landscape of possibility, bodies entwined in whispers of promise. No rush, no regrets, just us, finally aligned. Summer unfurled in tentative steps. Sarah filed for divorce, amicable but aching. Therapy sessions for all three of us weaving a fragile truce. She moved to a sublet in Chelsea, dating a colleague by July, her laughter returning in glimpses. Alex and I navigated the newness, first official date at Coney Island. Cotton candy sticking to fingers, his hand in mine under the Ferris wheel. "This is real?" he'd ask, awe in his voice. "As real as it gets," I'd reply, kissing him slow. The ocean's roar drowning our doubts. But shadows lingered. His parents' visit in August was a gauntlet dinner at their hotel. Alex's hand sweating in mine under the table. "Son," his dad said gruffly after the bomb dropped, "we didn't raise you to hide." His mom cried, then hugged us both. Apple pie waiting in the oven like forgiveness. Fall brought stability. Alex's book deal on the scandal. My novella accepted by a small press. We moved in together, his brownstone. Our brownstone nursery repainted a soft green for future dreams. Not dictated by timelines, but chosen. On the anniversary of that wedding day, under the same Connecticut oaks now bare and resilient, we exchanged rings, simple bands. Vows whispered fierce. "I fell for you that day too," Alex confessed. Hazel eyes steady. "Just took me too long to catch up." My heart, once a storm, settled into peace. Not flawless, but full a testament to love's long road. The beauty in breaking free.